And we are up. Episode number 11. We are in the double digits. Just moving right along. The Our Town podcast. And the guest that is sitting in front of me today is familiar.
I feel like we've been here before.
Do you remember which episode number you are?
Was I 6?
Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
I'm going to assume that at some point I'm going to forget. But right now, like... If I saw Ricky Fernandez, he's episode 1.
You'll always remember Ricky as
Chad was
episode
8,
1.
and you're episode 6.
At some point, it'll be like, you're episode 376.
You're 611 for me right now.
611. That works. I'll have to come back on episode 611, if not before then.
So, one thing that you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
well, you mentioned several things in episode 6, of course, but one thing you mentioned was that you wanted to come back and interview me at some point.
I did, because being somebody who I'm always in your seat, when you contacted me to do this, I had a ton of questions, but that wasn't like, it wasn't for me to ask questions. So I said, hey, love to come back. This was great. Next time I want to come turn the tables and interview you, because I have 1,000 questions to ask about you and how this whole this started and everything. So let's do it.
You want to do that?
Yeah, but I feel like if we're doing, I need to sit where we should switch.
Let's switch seats.
Let's switch.
Sounds good. Get your water.
Got my notes. Oh.
We did all of our sound check and prepping with.
So this is it. This is what it feels like to be in control of the podcast.
That's right. And I already realized this chair's a little lopsided, so oh well.
Oh, you've never sat over there.
I've never sat over here.
Guest 12 will have a nice level seat next time.
I'll have to add it to like the maintenance list. We were just talking before we got on the air that I'll always make a little tweak.
Yeah.
I realize I got to fix the chair.
There's always something for you to adjust, right?
Yeah.
In this type of setup. Now you've got a lot going on. And it's funny because when I came and sat down with you a couple weeks ago, one of the things I remember you said, you're like, all right, we're going to cover a lot of things and we're going to go out of order and then we'll circle back and we'll just get there. And so when I was making my notes and writing my questions, one of the things that I was kind of worried about was, oh my gosh, like what's the best order to go in? And then I remembered you said we will go out of order.
Yeah.
We'll come back to it. So we will go out of order and come back to it.
That's exactly what happened yesterday with Matt Kroschel.
Yeah.
From same thing. And I told you, I tell every guest, I do a lot of preparing.
Yeah.
And you over prepare, and you're feeling the same thing. Where then you come in and you're like, I don't know where. So you just start,
Right.
and in the course of an hour and a half or however long it is, it all just kind of fits in.
I always like to over prepare and just would love to have it. Like sometimes I'll over prepare for my show and I don't use anything. I'm like, I didn't use anything. So hopefully maybe that's what happens today. So first I want to start, and I was wondering if you get this a lot. So Troy By is your name, but it's M Troy By.
Yep.
What's the M?
It actually is on my shirt. So this is a Montesano shirt.
Okay.
This is a Foul Wow design, and I wore a Foul Wow yesterday. I wore the Metallica themed Alabama black shirt yesterday, and I have the one of the Trash Pandas one that he did. Trashy. Well, I can't remember what. I'm on the spot now. I can't remember what it says.
It's different
Trashy and
when
proud.
you're on the spot, isn't it?
Trashy and proud.
Okay.
But Monty's my first name.
Monty Troy By. Is that a family name?
My dad's name.
Okay.
And I was not a junior. His name was Monty Raymond.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm Monty Troy.
Did you always go by Troy? Mm-hmm. Never went by Monty.
No, my it's funny when people, if I want to be mean to someone and someone's making fun of my name, and the truth is they got divorced when I was born, and so my mom, I'm sure we don't know this, but I'm sure she didn't want to call me Monty because she was upset at my dad, whose name was Monty, right? So I can make someone feel really bad when I kind of drop that story on them. They're like, "Are you serious?" Like, "Oh yeah, man, it's like
we don't want to go there.
It's like a 5-letter word in our house."
Yeah, okay. Because I saw that on a few things. I'm like, what is the M? And so my next question, which I've asked since the start, you work for Mantech.
Yeah.
What do you do? What is Mantech and what do you do? Because I see it everywhere.
Yeah, Mantech is a large, you could call it like defense contractors, an easy way to, if someone has kind of some familiarity with companies that support the Department of Defense or the intelligence community or the FBI or NASA, right? So the government is going to hire contracting companies to execute a lot of their IT work or research and development or whatever it may be. So Mantech, we have 12,000 employees, headquartered in Virginia. So we have most of our presence is in Virginia, Maryland, DC, with those federal and state local agencies up there. So my background has mostly been on the IT side, managing large programs.
Okay.
So my job is to hire other like subcontracting companies to be on our team and ultimately fulfill a requirement. Provide the government with a database administrator or an intelligence analyst or a network engineer, a requirements manager, right? All to execute some task that they can't hire their own people to perform.
Right.
So they kind of manage the work, they execute or they make the decisions, but then they turn it over to us to kind of to perform the workload.
And you've been there how long?
I've been with Mantech 7.5 years, but in that industry for 20 plus.
Okay. That has been your career. And I ask that because being on this podcast and seeing your setup, which we're going to talk about your setup, I was like, surely he's got some sort of media communications background. And so I want to ask about being from Virginia, but how do you go from Mantech and the government contracting to then this amazing setup, which I wish everybody could see the setup because you see the very manicured part of this.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of computers. There's a lot of screens. There's a lot of remotes. How did you make that jump? And like, I also want to do some of this media.
Let me try to explain it. Some of it's just DNA. My brother, for example, my father was a mechanic, like a really good mechanic. Never went to school for it, just really good. There was no one better at fixing like a huge truck, or he could fix anything. And then my brother is in the Hollywood unions. So this is kind of where this plays in. So he's been everything behind the camera for his whole career. 30 years. Commercials, videos, movies. He did a lot of the Taco Bell commercials back in the day when they used that Chihuahua.
The Yaquito Taco Bell.
Yeah, Yaquito Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did a lot of those. He did a lot of stuff with Spuds McKenzie, the old Bud Light dog they used.
Yeah.
That had like the circle over his eye. So he did that professionally, but he also has this brain that like my dad. So he's never been a trained mechanic, but he can fix anything. And he really has a passion for like V8 engines and stuff. So similarly, in a way, I never knew that I had this interest in it until my oldest child was in 8th grade and I wanted to broadcast sports games.
Yeah.
I wanted to do high school football, and I was tired of doing like the public address, kind of like what Tony Mack does for the Trash Pandas. I was doing that for like Little League football, but you're very constrained
within the arena, the stadium.
Same thing with you
playing the
when
game.
you were talking to ZYP. You only get to say so much in the format of the show where you're on for 5 hours.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just be like unleashed, and I wanted to have my own. I wanted to do play-by-play and just create my own little like sports channel.
Okay,
and that's what I did.
Where you could talk about the players, you could talk about opponents, you could talk about
everything,
other things other than the list of things they're giving you as the PA announcer.
So the interesting thing is there's two parts to it. One, I enjoy the production side or creating the storyline and the script and doing the interviews and actually doing the game. Whether it's play-by-play or color, I can do all that. But then I also enjoy the technical side. Yeah. And that's where my brother came in, where I've only talked to him, I don't know, a dozen times over 10 years. But every time, like, it was what mics, like these mics are Heil PR40s. And I had these 10 years ago. These were my original mics.
Okay.
I sold those, and these are replacements. And then there's a box sitting in front of you that's like the digital recorder. Right. That was the original. I've had that for 10 years. And that's what I started with.
This one right here?
Yeah. And that's just
tried
audio.
And true.
Tried and true. That's what any field reporter would take with them, a journalist. It's a very powerful XLR, quarter-inch inputs. It has all kinds of different formats that you can record in. And that's what I did some of the first games with. And then we went to video. And we started doing, we went away from audio.
How quickly? Was it one game where you're like, all right, I got this, let's really make this big? Or was it a couple seasons? Like, how fast did you develop this?
I had the itch after like the 4th game to like introduce a video, and I didn't know how to do audio. And if I can, let me just step back a little bit.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Still your podcast.
Yeah. To tell people kind of how I got started.
Yeah.
But so one, this is just a lesson for people in just if you have a passion, just lean into it. Right. And I just all of a sudden developed this like confidence that I could do it.
Yeah.
Kind of fake it till you make it. The principal of the school actually lived behind me. And his son and my son were the same age, played on the same soccer team. So I knocked on his door and I was like, hey, I got this idea. And I had to come across like I knew what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I didn't even know anything at this point. This was like a Tuesday. And he says, yeah, it sounds good to me. Go now check with the athletic director. So then I check with the athletic director. He says, sounds good to me. I need to talk to the head coach. So I learned that there was this kind of like triumvirate,
right.
head coach, athletic director, and principal. They hold the keys to just getting me permission to do these games. So I get the permission, and then it's like, now I got to figure out how to do it. So I call my brother. I get stuff ordered. I was overnighting all kinds of stuff. I spend the money, and I do a game, a ton of late nights practicing.
Right.
But also, who are the players, downloading the rosters, watching film, because the cool thing about high school sports in the last 10 to 15 years is all their footage is now online.
Okay.
So you can kind of go in and watch like game tape and game footage and all this stuff.
So on a Tuesday, you pitched the idea to the principal.
And by that Friday, I did my first game.
You did not only the technical supplying, researching, but then the actual content
Everything.
researching. Okay.
I had like 3 days to pull it off.
Yeah.
But I didn't record it online. All they asked was that I gave them a copy. So it was going to be like a pilot. So I gave them the copy of the game. It took a little time for them to get back to me. And then I finally follow up. They don't call me. I call them. It's like, so how did it go? Do you like, what you heard? And they say, yeah, go ahead and do the next game, but do it over the internet. And I hadn't even started looking into that. And this is way before this is really easy these days.
Right.
This technology is now so commoditized where it doesn't really cost you anything as a creator.
Pretty basic to get it up there.
You can have a YouTube channel. You can use your phone. You can do Facebook Live.
Yeah.
Back then, it wasn't like that. And you had to pay money to have the software to do it, to be able to have to stream cost you a certain amount of money per hour. So it could be very cost prohibitive if it was popular. Anyway, I had to figure all that out really quick. And so the next thing you know, I did like 2 or 3 games, audio only. And then the season was over for football because this was like halfway through the year. And then we went into basketball and we started doing video. So a whole other animal. Buy the cameras.
But for like within half a season, you're up and running. And then into basketball.
Yeah, I would say for football, I was comfortable kind of on the audio only, right?
Yeah.
And the concept because in football, any sports, like you have a story. First, you have to build your story before every game. Who are the opponents? What's their history against each other in the past X number of seasons? How have they done against common opponents, home or away? There's all these storylines, and so I would kind of build this like quad sheet, and it had all these notes. Like okay, in the first quarter, I'm going to talk about this, or this during downtime.
Okay,
and then but then as the game unfolds, then you had a storyline, and now the game's unfolding, and how is the action compared against what you thought would happen? So then as a broadcaster, you're constantly referring back to that. Well, we thought he was going to have a really good game, and it turns out he's either having a better game or a worse game,
Yeah.
Or this person has an injured ankle. So, that's going to be a storyline the whole game. Well, how's that ankle going to hold up, right? So I got really comfortable with the content of the show. But then at the same time, I was trying every game to progress and do more technically.
So for you to decide and to at the same time figure out the technical aspect of doing these games plus the content, like, do you realize how hard that is to do both at the same time on your first go at it?
No, I guess I'm naive enough to know that. But it also was one of those things where I felt like I knew what I wanted. in both disciplines.
Yeah.
And I was just going to run with it until I could find someone, because people will volunteer to help you, but they don't really want to get that involved.
Right.
So you really have to find someone, that you can trust, because when you say you're going live every Friday night, you're going live every Friday night, and you don't want to overcommit until you have a very loyal staff or helpers, right? So I felt like until I can find someone, whoever that is, whether it's a great play-by-play or color analyst, but mostly would be play-by-play to kind of replace me.
Yeah.
And I can work on the technical side, or find someone who'd be a really good production assistant, director. Otherwise, I'm just going to do them both, because this is my baby.
Yeah. And if it's something you really wanted to do and to do consistently, you almost couldn't risk somebody like messing this up for you.
Right. And it is, I guess it's one of those things where it all makes sense to me, but other people, they would come into the studio and be like blown away, right?
Yeah.
It would just paralyze their brain. And for me, it's like, it just kind of all makes sense.
Which that happens a lot. As somebody who has brought in people to a radio station and puts them in front of a mic like this, and I go, okay, once we go on air, we're going to talk about X, Y, and Z, and get really close to the mic. And they're like, yeah, good, got it. And then we get on the air, and I'm like, so tell me about your event. And then they're like, that's a hard thing for people to do. And so for you to do it and be like, I can't have any of you on here until I get this figured out, or somebody I can trust. So did you eventually have somebody help you?
Yeah. And let me just say this before I get to that. Like, when you do a lot of pre-production, so you're doing research on a game, but you're also then, I would take time to build all of my graphics.
Yeah.
And you build your story and you kind of lay that into your software. So you really, as I was saying earlier about kind of your storyline, you're also following that in everything you put into your software as the game progressed, right?
Right.
And it really kind of then helps reinforce your kind of approach to the game. It's easier to recall facts and stuff because you've done so much preparation.
And your brain doing it yourself, or like me doing something myself, like I have in my head, all right, first quarter we could talk about this, and then you could get to this, this, and this.
Yeah.
But then something happens, the game changes, but you still in your head know, okay, I'm going to pivot from this player to this now storyline because it works. And if you have someone else with you, they might not track with you.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said for when you follow a team. So like Josh Carey, who does the Pandas, right? I mean, he has that, he gets to see what 100 and they play 69 home, 69 away. What's 138?
Yeah.
He sees 138 games. So same when you're following a team game by game.
Yeah.
And then you start adding seasons to that. And I've seen the same football team for 3 years.
Right.
There's a lot of information that you can then, you'll never know. It'll just come to your mind.
Yeah. And you're seeing, I'm sure, warm-ups. I'm sure you're seeing practices. As you're getting yourself set up before and after. You're seeing outside of this game, which then gives you much more to talk about. And you get very familiar with what you're speaking on.
Let me tell you, I'll tell you one kind of cool thing that happened one year. So I was doing coaches shows. I would do those every week so that I could get content, interview the coach every game, after every game, right before every game type thing. And then you use that, in the actual, your game script, and you just call information. I was talking to the coach the other day, and he said they were going to call a timeout in the first quarter, right?
Yeah.
But, so I interviewed then the captains, whoever they nominated as captains. I would interview them in like a preseason show at a sports bar, a sponsor in town, where everyone came to eat free wings and free burgers, whatever. And it was this great thing, and people would come and see. It was great for the kids to kind of, if they ended up being stars in college in the NFL, this was kind of their first time being on camera, being interviewed.
It gives them like a little bit of like,
swagger.
Yeah. And like a little clout, little 15 minutes of like, makes it seem like this is a big deal that you are the quarterback or the captain of this high school team. Which you see at colleges, they'll do sports shows with like coaches and bars and stuff like that. But you don't really see that for high school.
No. So they would be all over it. It was so there was this kid, Anthony, and I'm interviewing him, and I'm asking him about, hey, are you going to return punts this year? And he's like, yeah, I'm going to return punts, but I'm not sure about kickoffs. Or it was the other way around. He was a kickoff returner. My question was, are you going to return punts? He's like, maybe. I'm not really sure. Coach wants me to. So that was in August. So then you go all the way till November. Third playoff game. he runs a punt back for a touchdown.
Okay.
Okay. Then you go into February. Now season's over. They ended. I think they won that game. Went to the next week. They lose. So now in February I did a signing day show. There was 10 athletes that were going to go to college, and they had a ceremony for them. And I said, hey, let me broadcast it and let me produce it.
Yeah.
So I got with the coach, and we had this nice thing worked out where he would kind of talk about the player, and then as the player came up to the stage, then I would switch to video footage from the year I had edited together on that particular player, and then that's what I essentially did, and I had that clip. So when Anthony was coming up, so he was signing to go play wherever he was going to play college. On his way up to the stage, I played the clip of hit back to back of him saying, yeah, I might run back kicks this year, and I might run back punts. And then we go to the highlight from the third playoff game where he runs back for a touchdown. That was
gives
cool.
me chills to think about.
It made me feel so good that I had that footage and to be able to kind of like be there all year and to tell this story kind of end to end, chapter 1 through chapter 20. You know what I mean?
Did the parents appreciate all of that? Because they got to kind of come, I'm sure, to the coach's show or when you've had the players on, and I'm sure they brought the whole family to see their kids on this show and to see the highlights of signing day. Like, did they appreciate that?
Oh yeah. I mean, kind of tying together this concept that no one's going to pay to watch a high school game. Your biggest fans were the family. Yeah. The family of the player, particularly those who's like, let's say, dad or mom is deployed overseas and they're watching from a carrier in the middle of the Indian Ocean, which happened. Yeah. Or they're in Poland or something. Yeah. Or grandma has to travel and doesn't get to watch. So the families were always huge supporters. Yeah. And very, very thankful.
That is such a cool. Did you do that while your kids were in school, or did you do it after? And I want to talk about your kids, but I just kind of want to stick on a technical thing right at the moment. Was this just while they were in school?
I started when my oldest was in 8th grade. So I was kind of getting my feet wet and proving myself in his 8th grade year. So by the time he was a freshman, then I would, he's at the school. He didn't play football, but I got very involved with high school and high school sports when he entered high school as well. So it kind of timed well. And then my daughter, she was a cheerleader. She was 2 years behind him. So it kind of was a good way for me to be involved at the high school in a different kind of way.
Right. Not like in that stereotypical, like I'm chaperoning your dances and I'm on the PTA. Like
they're like, my dad.
That's my dad.
That's my dad.
Where's your dad? Is your dad coming to the game? Oh yeah. He'll be at the game.
He'll be the first one there and the last one to leave.
And he's been up all night and we're helping him carry these cables. So how long did you do that for the high school?
I did about 3 years. Then I tried to step away. There were some guys who were interested, and it was still my brand. It was called WL Sportsnet.
I was going to ask, is that what the WL Media Group and Sportsnet is?
The WL meant Western Loudon. The athletic director, I had a hard time picking a name. When I originally started, I've always liked the fact that we live near the ocean, and I always wanted ocean in the title. And I think originally it was like Ocean Sportscast. Like, we don't live near the ocean. Like, yeah, but I really like the name. Then I tried to change it to like Coastal Sports. And then and he just made this comment like, keep it local and people will resonate. So I changed it. And Western Loudoun County. And if you lived in Western Loudoun, that was very different than living in the eastern part of the county, right? And Western Loudoun had 2 high schools. And they were rivals, and it was 2 towns. It was awesome. So I changed it to that, and it really caught on. So I switched, or I shortened it to like the WL Sportsnet. Right. And so with that brand, I guess I started in the end of 2012 and went full bore through 2016. And then I tried to back away. Then I had a bunch of parents saying, look, these guys are terrible. They're not good. And so I came back for like the last half of, actually, that was the 2016 year. I came back and called a bunch of games into the playoffs. I started resuming the actual like coaches shows. And then I finally just sold everything to a sponsor. Yeah. Which is time consuming.
But if you think of the inception of, I have this idea, while my kids are in school.
Yeah.
I love this audio. I'm gathering that you're a big sports guy, so you get to be involved with all these sports. I'm going to get some sponsors. I'm going to add video. I'm going to do all these things. And then from inception to you end up selling it, in terms of any business, like you have to understand the magnitude of that, right? Like inception to knocking on the principal's door to I'm selling it and stepping away.
Yeah. I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
I'm really proud of it.
I can imagine. You'd have to be.
And, my job was great. My career was great, but it's also limiting. When you have a small business, you get to do everything.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy it. And even now with the Our Town podcast, I love what's your market?
Right.
Who's your viewer? Who's your listener? How do you make it better? What do they want? And I wanted to, and remember, this was a different time. There was only one other company doing truly live, full on video, like a sports channel.
Yeah.
There was only one other in the whole area. Everyone else realized how difficult it was.
Right.
And so I really stepped up to that challenge, and I was really proud of the product that we created.
And so then you go, and this was in Virginia, and I want to talk about personal stuff, Virginia to Huntsville, but I still want to, while we're on this podcast technical thing. So when you get here, what is the thought on, let me take this room in my house?
Yeah.
What was this room supposed to be in terms of a house? That you then were like, nope, this is going to be the podcast room.
What people can't see is there are two monitors mounted to the wall, and there's a desk, and that's essentially when I work from home.
Okay.
That's my desk.
So we're in your office.
We're in my office. My wife gets at me after me all the time. Like there's a cabinet to my right that has a bunch of our files. So it is an office.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be as least disruptive as possible to also turn it into a studio. So we use those monitors for the broadcast. I've added 2 others.
Yeah.
And you can still kind of walk in here and you can pull up a different chair and you can work from there.
Right.
So it is an office.
So when you get here, what is the thought on, all right, I have this now experience and background in audio and producing content. So what is the thought on Our Town podcast? Like, how did this happen? A big talker in my hands.
I guess I have never, having lived up in the Virginia area my whole career and most of my life, I have never started over.
Okay.
As far as every time I've moved in Virginia, I moved, but I was in the same industry. I went to the same job, or I changed jobs, but I was in the Washington area.
Yeah.
Okay. I've never completely gone to a whole nother, it's like going to like from the NFC to the AFC, or from the east to the south, right? Like I'm now in the SEC.
You don't know anybody.
Yeah. And so I kind of thought to myself, and I'm really excited to live here. Let's call it Our Town. I grew up in a town. I love towns. I love the concept of town. To me resembles more like family.
Right.
Than to a city.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone wants to be from a town. You want to feel like that town feel.
Right.
So I thought of the name, and then I thought, well, what if I can start interviewing as part of this people? I also had never done what we're doing now with full-on studio and lights.
Right.
And I'm experimenting with RGB lights. I like the blue.
Yeah, I like the blue as well.
I've got red filters. I've got green. I've got yellow. And so I wanted to also use this as an opportunity to technically go into another dimension, doing lighting, because my brother's an expert in lights, and so I want to like get his approval.
Yeah.
And be like, hey man, you're doing good. And like, oh, thanks. You know? And so we should spend some more time together and give me some of your advice.
Yeah.
So there's kind of that. I wanted to. This is now like I've kind of done everything. If I can figure this out with this kind of setup and lights and make it look really nice, then I'll have accomplished that as an itch.
But you're also learning about.
But I'm
North Alabama.
Yeah, North Alabama.
Meeting people.
Exactly. So like this would be like what is the fastest way that I can assimilate and integrate in this town, both for professionally with Mantech, but also just on a personal level in the community, and then also take advantage of the fact that now podcasting is the barriers to entry is so much lower.
Yes.
It's so much easier now to have a reliable product, and I can farm it out. I have a website that's awesome. I had someone build that for me, so everything uploads automatically. It goes out. You send an RSS feed out to your heart's content. You don't have to pay for it. There's no size restrictions on a file.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you know what? This is awesome. I used to pay a ton of money to stream.
Yeah.
So I want to take advantage of things being
The lower
cheap or
entry.
free, right?
Yeah.
And then also, build a brand.
Yeah.
And it takes time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the challenge. I want to step up to that challenge and say, hey, I think I can, make some inroads here in Huntsville.
Yeah. So before we talk about Huntsville and, the connections you're making, let's talk about, like, technically speaking this, because I came and did episode 6. And when I walked in, I was like, wow, this is such a great setup, because anybody can do a podcast, right? But not everybody should. Like, I have tried to listen to some podcasts where, like, 10 seconds in, I'm like, I cannot listen to, just technically speaking, not a great setup. So I was very impressed when I walked in, or before I came to do the episode, listening to Tony Max and to Ricky's about just, like, I was like, oh, it's video and there's different angles. And so tell us quickly, like, what is our setup here? Because you're seeing the 2 screens and it looks very professional. And it's a very professional setup.
It all starts with audio,
Mm-hmm.
and we're actually not even using the original box. But if I had paying customers, right, and I truly wanted to make sure that we had redundancy, I would have that box on. So it has to start with good audio, before you do anything. So we're at that point. Got good microphones. This is going into OBS. And actually, let me step back. So good audio, but I'm sending everything into a video and audio switcher. Mm-hmm. Blackmagic Design is the products I use. There's other things out there, but I've always liked Blackmagic. So it goes into that little box that's over there on the right, and I can have up to 4 cameras go into there. But from the board, the audio board is sitting down by your feet. Mm-hmm. That's important, right?
Yes.
And you can do a lot with an audio board, and so it comes out, goes into that same box where the video switcher is. And that's an important piece, because then that's actually what is translating the signal that then to send into a laptop. Because I learned the hard way. I didn't realize this when I first started and I tried to do a basketball game.
Yeah.
I thought I could just plug a camera, an HDMI cable into the computer. It doesn't.
Cannot.
It doesn't work.
It's got to go through something else.
It has to have, there has to be a converter that's kind of like saying, oh, hey, you want to talk to the computer? Well, let me write some software. It doesn't really work that way, but let me change the signal so the computer can understand what we're sending it. And that's why you have to have a capture card. Now, so with this podcast right now, you're seeing split screen.
Yeah.
The reason that is that way, we actually have 2 capture cards going into that laptop.
Okay.
I will also say this: never, ever, ever use a PC if you're going to do live streaming or good recording. That's a MacBook. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you. People get very
PC versus Mac, and they don't like one or the other.
They can say whatever they want. Mm-hmm. If you want a really good, high quality product, you use a MacBook. And I've always used a MacBook Pro. So that has 4 USB-C inputs, and that's something you have to really think about. Like, okay, what do I want to do? And you don't want to overstrain your computer. There's a lot of factors that go into it. So, but I use a MacBook, and then of course there's software that sits on that. So to kind of try to bring it all together, you've got the audio, and then you have cameras. Yeah. I'm only using 2 cameras.
Let's look at all the cameras. Look at that one.
Yeah. I could add.
There's this one.
Well, those are all. So let me step back a little bit. So you have good audio, and then of course I'm just using 2 cameras right now. Mm-hmm. And I also wanted in my studio. These are they're kind of like teleconference cameras. They're Omnipause, and so they're just they're point, pan, tilt, and zoom. And because otherwise, if this is a small space, and to put like a tripod in, and to try to get behind the tripod and look behind the camera is really hard to do. So they're just kind of mounted on these little shelves right in the corner, and I just use a remote control to control the cameras. I use only HDMI out. Mm-hmm. You have to incur a lot of costs if you have a really long cable run. Like when I used to do my press box on the field, you have to convert the signal to SDI. So it can travel several hundred feet, then you have to convert it back, and that's just more money, more hardware.
Right.
So this is nice. These just go straight into the box. but we could have multiple cameras, and I could even use an HDMI switcher, and we could probably have 12 cameras if we wanted to.
Yeah.
We could.
It's a very professional production, and you've got lighting set up. And I even noticed in the episodes I was watching before I came, like even your like the backgrounds, you know, the
RGB lights.
Everything is just in the like it's just a very professional setup, and it was so impressive to come in and see. And I was like, that's why I have all these questions. Like, how did this? Where did you get all of it? Like, how did you know to get everything? Because as somebody who has only dealt in radio and audio, all of this is foreign to me.
And I'm learning every episode something about lighting. I am not a lighting expert.
Yeah.
But everything is pretty much, I'm not, I understand everything kind of by ear, right? Like the soundboard, I'm not an expert on the soundboard, but I know enough to where I feel like, okay, that sounds good. Or the video, okay, that looks okay. And so I've got a lot to learn when it comes to lighting. And so a lot of that decorative stuff, it's like, okay, is the light too strong on you? And you've got some background light. And those are things that will come in time.
What I love about, I hate calling this a hobby for you because it's a lot bigger, and I feel like hobby kind of lessens what it is. But if there is something, this was not your career, this is not what you grew up and learned and went to school for. But luckily we live in a time where you can find, I'm sure you have been on YouTube and the internet, like what is the best lighting? What's the best way to, merge this content in this video? And how do I get my podcast up on all of these different platforms? Like we are in such a great time where it is the information to do other things that you're interested in is so accessible.
Yeah, and the reality is most of the YouTubers are just kind of single. They're using their camera on their computer, and they're not doing this. Like everything's external. Like there's one thing, like I don't want to do it the easy way. And people say, why don't you just do like a Zoom? I don't want to do Zoom interviews. I want them to be face to face.
Yeah.
And I want cameras that are not on your computer, that are external, and everything's brought into. That's just the way I like to do it.
The correct way. The
professional way.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes a while to find something on YouTube where you're like, oh, yeah. That's similar to what I'm trying to do, the way they have their setup.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great information. There's a ton of good information, and there's a ton of stuff you're like, okay, not for me.
How did you decide to format this podcast? Like when you're coming up with the idea, I'm in a new town, I want to learn about the town, I want to make this my community too. Like how did you decide, here's how I'm formatting this podcast?
Format in the sense of like the guests and things?
You just like the content.
Well, I knew I model this a lot after like the way Rogan does it. And there's a lot of great podcasts out there.
Yeah.
But he's one of the only ones that are actually it's video, and they're also not looking at the camera.
Right.
So this is kind of that similar thing, and it's long form.
Yes.
And he kind of just interviews all kinds of different people. I know that I know a lot about certain things, but I don't think I've come across something yet where I could have a podcast only dedicated to that one thing.
Yeah.
I'm not enough of an expert, as much as I love golf and snowboarding and things like that. Yeah. I'll probably be limited in what I can offer or the number of guests that I could have. So to me, I want to be broad. I feel like I'm a good interviewer. I feel like I can do good research on any guest. I learn something in the process. I genuinely enjoy meeting people and learning about people and probing people and trying to peel back some layers here and there. So to me, it was let's do a broad brush, business, sports, entertainment, and just kind of take it week by week. And as I meet people, I get different suggestions.
Yeah.
And hopefully people, and I think it's going to take time. It's the same thing with like Rogan or others where I'll look through thousands of episodes and I'm not interested in every episode.
No.
But so I know it's going to take time for me to get to like a certain number where people will like, okay, it looks like it's a reputable podcast because he's at episode 50. And there looks like there's some things I'm interested in, right?
Or people they recognize.
Yeah. And I fully realized of the 10 or the 11 episodes we've done now, some people may only be interested in one or two because they know Tory.
Right.
Or, they know Ricky or whatever. So, but in the meantime, my format is like, I'm not going to worry about what people think.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go forward with what I think I'm good at. Mm-hmm. I'm good at meeting people.
Yeah.
And hopefully they'll come on, and hopefully every person comes on is like, hey, this is a cool setup. I enjoyed this. Hey, you need to talk to so-and-so. And that for me is a good measure of, hey, it seems to be working.
And as somebody who is circling back with you, the things I thought, this is a great setup. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
I have X, Y, and Z people I think would be great for this. So like, I don't know if you've followed up with any of your other guests, but you and I have stayed in touch and plan to do this so I can, as your focus group, circle back with you and say, I did all of those things and thought all of those things.
Yeah. And, it's also coinciding with this time in my life where we're excited about everything in life right now. Right. So this is an extension of that, where every podcast I do is yet another guest, a person I get to meet, and something additional where I get a couple tips or, hey, you should check this out. You should check that out. It's awesome,
So now I want to kind of shift to more about you now that we've talked about all the technical stuff and your background on how this happened. So you moved from Virginia. Are you from Virginia?
Originally from Utah. We were there 7 years.
Okay.
Kind of a tragic circumstance. I'll try to tell it very briefly. My parents divorced when I was young, and then when I was 6, both my parents remarried. So by the time I was 6, my dad had remarried and had a daughter with a second wife, and my mom had been remarried and had 2 kids. And we find out my dad was in a motorcycle accident, and in the mountains of Utah. He was a coal miner. And it took a long time for the people to get to him, so he had a very serious head injury. Mm-hmm. He just died last month, and so he lived 40 years. Just he lost his memory.
Yeah,
didn't have a lot of good mobility. Really, just kind of a tough break.
Right.
And but then my mom had a similar accident the next year. We went on vacation to Virginia because her parents were from Virginia. My grandfather worked for the Department of Agriculture, kind of post-World War II. He was from Utah. My grandma was from Georgia. They moved to D.C. He gets a job with the government, goes to war, comes back. They kind of just make Virginia their home. And so we go out to visit them, and my mom, my stepdad, my older brother, and my older sister went down to Monticello, the home of Jefferson.
Yeah.
And a tree limb fell and crushed her, fell on her head. And so she was in a coma for a while. And there was a circumstance with my stepfather where he was removed from the house, and 6 kids are now living with my grandparents. Okay. In Virginia, just like that.
Very challenging time.
Yeah, it was the summer after first grade. So the next thing you know, we're all enrolled in school, and we lived in McLean. This is in McLean, Virginia. Okay. And so things were never the same after that. And so
I imagine that's a very pivotal.
Yeah, we never all lived with my mom again. I lived with my mom and one of my younger brothers all through. She was a mom, but she was just kind of there. Mm-hmm. She was an adult. Yeah. But we relied heavily on our extended family. Yeah. And she went to bed at 9:00 every night. Okay. Yeah. So I was the man of the house, and
too young to be the man of the house. Yeah. Probably.
And it's just different. Yeah. We never had a home cooked meal after that. She didn't remember how to cook. We had everything was in a box. Okay. And so, it was life altering, life changing, but at the same time, it's made me into who I am and how I look at things and work ethic and stuff like that. But it's definitely one of the, other people have much more difficult circumstances, but ours is such where, it's had an effect on all of us.
Still your circumstances. Yeah. It's always hard to be like, well, people have it worse, but that doesn't minimize your worse. Right. So you go to George Mason. Mm-hmm. What year did you in George Mason?
So I was basically a working adult student. I got married when I was 22. And so we had our first kid when I was starting there. I actually went to a community college for 2 years. Okay. And then I went to Mason for my last 2. I majored in management information systems. I was like kind of that adult student. I was working full time, going to school full time, paid my way through it. I finished Mason in 2000.
Okay.
I think like graduation was January of 01. And then I went to, I was working, and I changed jobs, went to a different company, and then I started a master's degree through Old Dominion. Just kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Part to full-time school, full-time work until I got done with that in 04.
Did you go straight from your master's into Mantech?
Well, I was working for, in that world, you, as a contractor, you kind of move from contract to contract, company to company. It kind of just depends. Small company, big company. So Mantech has been about a third of my career in that industry. I was well done with my master's before I actually went to Mantech the first time.
Okay.
But I was I was working for different companies doing similar work.
Same realm.
Yeah. And I was just kind of moving up in my career, if you will, in management.
How many kids do you have?
4.
4 kids. Names, ages.
Well, let's see. Brandon is now, he'll be 20. He'll be 23 this year in June.
Okay.
His birthday's coming up. So he'll be 23 this month. My daughter, Alicia, is 21. Mm-hmm. Jason and Dylan live here and go to school at James Clemens.
Okay.
Jason is now 17 and Dylan is 15.
So I asked, and I sensed that they were adults or almost adults. And my mom says to me all the time, if I could go back and re-raise you from the start, I would do it in a heartbeat. She said, but there is something about you being an adult and us having a different type of adult friendship relationship that she says she values a lot. We go have dinner and we go see shows and we travel together, and it's a different type of relationship. So while she says I would start over in a heartbeat, it was the best thing ever, she very much likes our relationship. So with your 21 and 23-year-old, and even with your teenagers, the relationship of like raising them of I'm your dad, here are the rules, here's how I'm going to make you into a good person, versus now where they're like not your peers or contemporaries, but there's like a mature relationship. Is that a good one? Is that like a cool thing for you to be like, oh my gosh, my kids are now adults?
Yeah. And, they're all different in the things they like to do. And I would say that, and it's interesting as an adult, because when I was younger, I was very one-dimensional. I was just into sports and that was it. Team sports and my friends. But as an adult, I've taken on other interests where now my kids kind of all have interests and talents and all the things that I enjoy now as an adult, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I can do stuff with my younger boy that I probably wouldn't have done when I was his age.
Right.
And I can do something with all of my kids or have something like, oh, I enjoy that, but they're the only one of the kids who enjoy it, but I also enjoy it, and so I have a special bond or things I do with each kid because they're all very different and the things they like to do or the things they're interested in.
What kind of things do you do with each of them?
Well, my younger boy is into archery now.
Okay.
So that's cool. I remember was into archery,
awesome.
and he likes to cook and he likes to bake. And those are things that I've kind of taken on later. My 17-year-old Jason is he did both of my older boys wrestled, but then Jason likes to do cross country.
Okay.
So we'll do a lot of running. We did the Mustang mud run together. We'll do like 5Ks and half marathons together. My older boy likes to lift weights. And so we have a garage or a gym in the garage.
Yeah.
And so I'll do more like hardcore lifting with him. We snowboard together. Jason likes to snowboard too. And then with my daughter, that's different. I don't know. I was just thinking about all the things I do with my boys. We have kind of shared music.
Yeah.
Things like that. I don't see her as often. She's, now they're all kind of she lives in Richmond.
Oh, okay.
She goes to Virginia Commonwealth University. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
Was it hard for them, the younger ones, to move from Virginia, which had been their home? And was it hard for maybe the older ones who stayed to have their home, like their childhood home? Not like my mom has not yet sold the house I grew up in,
really?
But I know she's going to get to that point where, she's going to go live in Florida or she's going to want a townhouse. And it really hurts my chest that like I will always have a home with her, but it won't be my childhood home. Like, was there any type of, were they good with it? We're like, yeah, we're on board, or was it a little hard?
So we moved. We lived in 4 different houses in an apartment in 3 different houses in Virginia. So my older kids definitely experienced moving. You know, moving school systems, moving counties.
Yeah.
We actually moved. When my oldest was a junior, halfway through his junior year, we moved to a different county.
Oh,
They changed schools, all that stuff, right? So we went through at least kind of one like warning shot period of like, okay, this is what this is like. And then when we moved here, same thing. Jason's now halfway through his junior year. And so it's not like we had never moved, but it's difficult.
It's a big move.
And it's one of those things where you're just like, look, you have to trust me as your father and us as parents that this is something we feel we should do.
Yeah.
It's good. My career, where we feel like our family should be.
Yeah.
And you trust me through experience because I've lived through, difficult moves and transitions. We're going to be fine, and we have the best interest of the family in mind.
Like, we're doing this for you.
But yeah,
it's going to be fine. I get it's hard.
Yeah.
I get you don't want to switch schools and start.
Yeah.
As somebody who has, as an adult, started over in her life 3 times in different states for jobs, it is really hard to do as an adult. So to do it as a teenager in high school, I'm sure is difficult.
Just outside this room, they both have their gaming computers. And so the easier thing about kids now, like when I moved, I never saw my friends ever.
Write letters.
Right? When I moved from Utah to Virginia, I've never seen any of those kids ever. They were my best friends.
Yeah.
Because, I wasn't writing letters necessarily in 2nd grade.
But you couldn't just like connect with them on Facebook or Snapchat them.
Now I think there were friends they had in Virginia that they never really saw. They went to a neighboring school or they only knew them online playing their games. And now they have that circle of friends online.
Right.
But they also have their new physical friends.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a little easier for kids if they have the right attitude.
Yeah.
When it comes to that kind of stuff.
What is something that surprised you when you got here? Because I also just moved here recently, so I was excited to talk to you about, as you and I being implants and the friends I've made, they're all from here or they're from Alabama. What were you expecting and what maybe was the same or different, or what surprised you?
I'm a little surprised at we literally have one of everything.
Okay.
And you come from like in the DC area, we have a Top Golf, but it services like this huge area.
Yeah.
And we have a Dave and Buster's, but it's in Maryland.
Right.
Or it's somewhere else. And things are just, I'm amazed at how like lucky we have. And I'm picking out those 2 things. Those are 2 things where like, yes, you had them in the DC area, but it was quite an effort. It was quite an excursion to go do something like that.
Right.
Because it was way on the other side of, not just the other side of town, like counties over,
Yeah.
right? Where I'm like, we have everything. And now we have the Orion. And the downtown is so easy to kind of, navigate and get around, where I'm amazed at the number of things we have and how close they are. It could be like a shooting range. Oh yeah, we have one right down the road. What about this? Oh yeah, it's right down. Like we have everything.
And it's not a jaunt to get there.
No.
15, 20 minutes on a heavy traffic day. And it's not servicing all of the DMV. It's just servicing South Huntsville or North Alabama or Madison, Decatur. Even Decatur. I noticed that too. Even getting to Decatur, or I work in Athens, or even getting to Gunnersville, like not that far. Getting over to Muscle Shoals, like not a huge deal.
Yeah.
And very manageable to do.
The other day we discovered Rainbow Mountain. I go down Hughes Road a lot to go to like the Home Depot, kind of a back way and avoid 72.
Yeah. And
then if you just take a right turn in this neighborhood, you're like in quality hiking.
Yes.
That is, I know this is the Appalachians, and that's what I think I love about it. I love the Appalachian mountain range. You know that from living in Pennsylvania, and the rock formations, and like this is some legitimate hiking that's so close, and we have a lot of that. So we're just so fortunate. I mean, we don't have the ocean; that's 5 or 6 hours away, or the Gulf.
Yeah.
But other than that,
But you could do a really challenging or easy quality hike in the morning.
Yeah.
And then you could have a very nice fancy dinner that same night.
Yep.
In a very quick turnaround. And I love that about Huntsville. And you can, or just North Alabama, you outdoors, if you're an outdoorsy person, if you're a sports person, if you're a foodie, we've got that for you. But then there's like the culture too of the Orion, and we have everything that happens at the VBC and at Mars Music Hall and the live music and the art. Like
Broadway stuff.
Just the ballet and the symphony. And we've got all these local artists. And that to me was very surprising when I got here to just like it's a very well-rounded, but it still feels like that southern, like a charming southern town that you sort of expect when you're moving to the South.
You know, other than, you know, we all know at Chick-fil-A that they're across the country, they're trained to say, hey, my pleasure.
Yeah.
But genuinely, you go other places and just kind of, hey, have a blessed day.
Yeah.
Like, it's not just Chick-fil-A, where you know that they have really good training,
right?
Right.
They
no matter where you go, they have to say
Yeah.
that. And that's fine. And I think they mean it, but they're also trained to do that,
right?
And yet everywhere else you go, you get that genuine, hey, you have a blessed day.
Yeah.
Have a good day. Sir.
How are you today?
Yeah.
It's very nice. And I don't know what it was like in Virginia, but the people of Pittsburgh are very nice like that. But there is something about when I first got here, the first couple of weekends before I really had any social plans, before I met anybody, but like I just didn't have anything to do, really. I didn't know anybody. I would go down to Clinton Row, the Clinton Row shops in downtown Huntsville, and I would just go get a coffee. I'd walk into the stores and just chat with whoever was working there and ask them about their store. And I spent all day just on Clinton Row talking to every single business owner or the person that was working that day just about the area. Yeah. And they were so kind and so willing to just stand there and chat with you. And I think that is so special that I don't think people realize, especially if you've lived here a long time or if you grew up here, like how rare that is coming from a north. Or I lived in California for a bit, and that was different. It's a different type of hospitality.
Yeah.
Where do you what places do you like to frequent here in Huntsville? Because I realized in my episode with you, we didn't really get a chance to talk about our town. And like your branding is, all that's good in Huntsville. Where do you like in Huntsville? Where do you like to go?
I like to do things. I'll give you an example because it's so easy. My wife and I, we went to Commerce Kitchen.
That's a good one.
And then right next to it, it's like Harrison Brothers, the hardware store. I want to go eat somewhere downtown. Yeah. And then I do like to shop. And my wife
Do you like to shop?
Yeah, I like to shop. And they're like, what are you looking for? Like, I don't know yet. It could be stuff like I'm still looking for the perfect pieces to put in this set. Like something, I want Huntsville specific things, and I probably just need to go to Low Mill
that's a good idea.
And I'll find some good artwork.
Yeah.
I'm kind of hunting for that perfect piece to be like hanging on the wall. Yeah. But I just like to shop. I like to give. So then that means I bought a lot of my Foul Wow t-shirts at Harrison Brothers.
You do have really good t-shirts.
Thanks.
I've noticed in all your episodes. Yeah. It's all very good t-shirts.
I'm just one of those people. I'm all in.
You're very much leaning into this town.
I want to support my guests. I'll tell you something funny today. Since I interviewed Matt yesterday, I was trying to watch Way 31,
right?
And I'm also trying to listen to you on ZYP.
Yeah. But I know you like sports, so you're also trying to get the sports station
no,
too.
I don't follow it like I used to.
Yeah,
but I'm a sports fan. But I don't really watch a lot of games. Yeah, I'm not as interested as I used to be. But I do love sports.
Yeah, I want to come back to Huntsville, but
so I didn't.
But before we do that, I want to with the sports. You run.
Yeah, I started running.
Golf.
I've played golf my whole life. Snowboard my whole life. Played team sports: football, baseball, basketball. Played soccer really young, but running is something I took up about 5 years ago. Okay. Mostly just to try to lose some weight, and then I just started to enjoy it, and then I would do like Ragnars or half marathons just to kind of prove to myself physically I could do these things. I ran 4 miles today at lunch, so I try to get out.
Just 4 miles.
And I love, mostly it's just to decompress. It's
Yeah.
to think, especially as a podcast host, that's when I will listen to podcasts. I'll listen for ideas. It's not like I'm just running and listening to music.
Right.
I use it as kind of my time to exercise, but also then quality time to think and to process and to, let my mind kind of germinate on things.
In the last few years, I really have made it a point I've always exercised, always been active, but not in a consistent way. But in the last few years, like once I moved here, I was like, you've got to, like, everything else has fallen into place for you. Like, you're eating vegetables, you're doing the vitamins, like, you've got to move your body. So I really committed to, I do spin classes, and it's not even the physical aspect. It's like, I've just got to move my body, and I just feel so cliche as an adult being like, I just feel so much better. But like, it really like clears your head as you're dealing with a full day's work and all the other stuff that comes along with being an adult. Like, it is so important.
It's hard. It's interesting. It seems so crazy to say, if you're feeling tired, go exercise.
Yeah.
And you won't be tired anymore.
Yeah.
And it's true.
Like, that's the last thing I want to do when I'm feeling tired is go run 4 miles. So you run, you snowboard, you golf. That's something I would love. That's on my list of things like I'd love to learn. But you and your son golfed in Vegas.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome. So I have a buddy, Todd Wetton. Shout out to him. I mentioned him in the episode 4 with Tony Mack. He's from Hawaii.
Okay.
He's called a haole. Haole's a white guy that ends up living over there.
In Hawaii?
Yeah, and he just kind of assimilates
right.
with the Polynesian culture. Call them haoles. And so we always went on a golf trip, and our boys were graduating high school. This was 2017. It was the fall of 2016, so we decided to take them with us. Mm-hmm. And we would play 2 rounds a day. So we weren't expecting our boys to play 2 rounds a day. I don't know if you've ever been to Vegas, but we stayed in Summerlin, way off the strip, out at the Suncoast Casino or something like that. So there's some really good golf courses over there, including TPC Las Vegas. And so we played in the morning. Like, he and I would play in the morning early, and then by the time those guys would wake up, they'd hit the arcade or whatever they were doing in the hotel. We would eat lunch with them, and then they would play with us in the afternoon.
Okay.
So we went up to north, the north part of the strip, Fremont Street.
Oh, like the old Vegas.
The old Vegas.
Yeah.
And there's this place called the Heart Attack Grill.
Sounds great.
And it's this thing where it's more of like a experience than the meal. It's not really about the food. But they have a cattle scale, like for livestock.
Yeah.
Outside. It has a digital reader, and if you weigh over 350 pounds, they invite you in and you eat for free. So, but just everyone stands on the scale, and they can see the number. You can see the number outside, and they can see the same number inside.
Right.
So anyway, you can stand on the scale if you want. So we go in, and then they have like this video. It's kind of like going to an amusement park or something where there's like this. You go in, and they put you in a like a patient's gown.
Oh, okay.
Heart Attack Grill, like you're going into the hospital as a
they've
patient.
really leaned into this brand.
And they're going to just feed you crappy food to give you a heart attack, right?
Great.
And it's only, so then they seat you, and you're in this patient's gown on top of your clothes, and you only can order burger meat, and you can order up to 10 patties on your burger. So it's like single bypass, double bypass, triple, quad, all the way up.
Yeah.
And fries and a Coke. There's no diet drinks, right?
No salads, I'm sure.
None of that. And but the thing is, if you don't eat all of your food, then they will parade you up into the center of the restaurant, take a wooden paddle, and spank you hard. Okay?
Can you even do that still in 2022?
So I guess we and to make it even a better experience for us, our server was a little person.
Okay.
And so we ate our food, except my son. I think he kind of did it on purpose. And you have to just eat the burger meat. You don't have to eat all. So you could leave
the bun.
Yeah, you don't have to eat all the bun and all the fries. And so the thing was, they're gonna paddle you if you don't eat all your burgers. So he like leaves some of it. So she takes him by the hand, takes him up into the center of the restaurant. Doesn't take his pants down or anything, but takes his paddle. And we had a video. I don't know. I really wish I could have had it here. and she hits him. And at first he's smiling, like this is going to be funny.
Yeah.
And then you can see his face like
oh gosh,
that
this
hurt.
was not what I thought.
Oh man, she paddled him hard, and he was like in serious like pain. And the whole restaurant's clapping. And then there was a couple that were both north of 375 pounds.
Okay.
And so what they do is every time they basically gave them a burger at a time. Mm-hmm. They eat the burger, then they go weigh themselves, and then it would go up, and people would just clap. And then they would like cheer, and they would sit, and they would eat more, and then they would have to weigh themselves. It was like quite the experience.
I'm sure quite the like once in a lifetime, once is enough experience.
Yeah, I don't need to go back. Once was enough. It's kind of one of those restaurants.
I'm sure your son would be like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah,
actually,
yeah.
No, thank you.
So that, in addition to the golf, that was kind of a fun.
Yeah.
That was kind of a fun experience.
Like you will always like kind of be like, hey,
you remember
that one time? And he's like, no, I was there. I know. So back to Huntsville, you like Commerce Kitchen and you like to shop. Now, I think for a cool art piece, Low Mill, or in Harrison Brothers Hardware, they like the second half of the store, they have a lot of good like prints and photographs. And
we bought one of those puzzles, like the state of Alabama to put together. So
yeah.
I told my son, put it together and I'll hang it on the wall.
Yeah.
And I love Low Mill.
Yeah.
I like that concept. Lincoln Mill, the Stove House.
Lincoln Mill's new. It's like just getting rolling.
I just like that idea. They don't just tear things down.
Yeah.
They find a way to repurpose.
And it works out so well. I really like Stove House. And for like the first year I was here, I'd go there and I never thought why is it called Stove House?
Yeah.
And then I Googled it and it used to be a stove factory, and that makes so much sense. And Campus 805 being a school. And I just had friends in town this weekend from Philadelphia. So I took them to we did all of it. We were at the camp, Stove House, Campus 805, Space and Rocket Center. We went down, we did everything. So I just got to do like a ton of the tourist stuff. I think it's so great here. How is it different or similar to the town you were in, Virginia? Is it a similar vibe with like restaurants and bars and coffee shops?
Yeah. This does. So where we just moved from was Winchester, which is a good. Gosh, Winchester's probably 75 to 80 miles north and west of D.C. So it's technically not even in what you consider the Washington metropolitan area. I don't know how much you know about this, but yeah, it's like a blast radius. So 50 miles out, right? Okay. That's where you're going to have, you're no longer in the Washington metropolitan area or metropolitan area when you're 50 miles out. So where we left though, George Washington had like a office in Winchester.
Oh, okay.
There's a pedestrian walking mall area.
Yeah.
It does remind me somewhat of living in Winchester. As far as anywhere I ever lived in D.C., no, not even close.
Because it's very much a city in D.C.
Yeah, it's and D.C.'s so big, and that's what's great about Huntsville, right? Like, there's a lot. Philadelphia is a big city. It's quite a bit to walk around.
Yeah.
You can't just walk it. You know, you have to kind of know where you're at and drive one place and do some walking and shopping type thing. DC is just, there's way too many suburbs to kind of connect. And, some of them have some nice charm and some nice character. Yeah. But when you look at kind of the totality of like just Huntsville has a downtown, that's special.
Goes right into Big Spring Park. I mean, you really can just do the downtown, and then you can walk over to the VBC, and that is a good area to walk in. What other places do you and your family like to go to in Huntsville? We're
learning. We're even trails. We're on the Trails app. Just hey, let's go do a hike. Let's start doing that on Sundays. We want to do more stuff on the water, like go down to the rivers. Just discover kind of where the Flint comes through on Hampton Cove side. We're just going to explore, and we're looking at all the, going on and looking for tickets. We can't wait for Broadway. I guess that starts up again in November, the November season. And so we're just, we can't do it all. We want to do it all. And we're just taking baby steps and, and doing what we can.
When I moved here, there were so many things that even in the almost 3 years I've been here, it's changed and it's grown so much.
Yeah.
But I remember being like, oh, I want to do this and I want to go here and I want to try this place. Then I'm like, you do not have to do it all in the first year that you're here. Like, you're living here indefinitely. So there's plenty of time.
We're definitely eating out a lot.
Yeah. There's so many good places though.
Yep.
where do you guys where's your go-to?
Well, it depends. Ice cream wise, I asked this of Ricky, I think in episode 1, I like Culver's a lot.
Okay.
Between Culver's but I'll go to Freddy's. They all have a different thing I like about them.
What about Handles? Have you done Handles?
I haven't done Handles yet.
Oh, I'm working through the menu on Handles. Yes.
Let's see. Chicken, what is it? Chicken salad chick?
Yeah. Oh, that's big here. That's really big here.
Yeah, I like that.
Every party, birthday party, baby shower, everybody has chicken salad chick as part of their.
Oh, really?
I don't know if it's just my friends or if that's just, I assume that's how it is here. That is going to be at every single event.
Yeah. We love Mexican food. So we've tried a lot of the Mexican restaurants. Yeah. I like that one where it's like the old drive-in theater and it's the ticket booth.
Okay.
And so you kind of pull up and you order on one side of the ticket booth and you kind of pull around and pick up your food. I don't know. And some of it's just been normal chains. We like to do an Outback. I like Champy's a lot.
Champy's has good chicken. Yeah.
Yes. We've done that a few times. I mentioned that on episode 2, where one thing I loved about Huntsville was if we were going to go see a game, like the Washington Wizards or the Washington Capitals play, you're talking about an hour and a half or 2 hour drive into town, into DC, right? And then trying to find somewhere to eat and then get home and all that. Where we went to Champy's we went to go see the Havoc one night.
Okay.
And we sat down at 5:45.
Yeah.
And the game's at 7. We sat down at 5:45. I think I paid the check at 6:35, and we still got to the Von Braun, to the Probst Arena, seated, and plenty of time before the game started. That's why I love Huntsville.
It's easy to find a place to park. Yeah. Maybe not right in front of wherever you're going for an event, but parking, pretty easy.
Yep.
Not really many commute times,
right?
Depending on the day. I just did Kenny Chesney at the Orion last week, and a concert in Pittsburgh. I'm sitting in the parking lot for an hour and a half after just stop and go traffic, and I mean right out.
That's awesome.
Home in 10 minutes.
That's awesome.
I think the way they have designed this city and the amenities we have. I don't know if amenities is the right word for it, but just everything they have to offer here.
Yeah.
Between culture and shows and sports. Big Trash Pandas guy.
Me?
You?
Yeah. Well, I think I've explained it where you want to see Kenny Chesney. You want to see live music. You want to see live music outdoors. That's why the Orion works. That's why Red Rocks is so awesome, or any outdoor experience. So for sports, you want to go to a game. And it just so happens that it's great when they're number one and they're playing well, but the field is awesome. It's a first class stadium.
It's beautiful.
The team is good. These are professional players, right? They're just a phone call away from playing for the Angels, and the absence of other teams in Huntsville, it's just them and the Havoc.
Right.
It makes for a hot ticket. They're well attended. They do a great job with the fireworks on Friday. Those fireworks are amazing.
I think both Havoc and Pandas do a good job of, even though they're minor leagues, they treat it like this is big time. Yeah. They take it every game, every promotion they do, every detail of their arena and stadium, in my opinion, is covered as we're treating this like this is the majors.
Yeah. For me, it kind of goes like when I went to the beach as a kid. I like to go to a beach where there's go-karts, there's an arcade. Yeah. And so when I go to a Pandas game, I want to eat the food in the stadium. That's part of it. We all like to just have stadium food, right?
Like something about a hot dog.
Yeah. Or a pretzel. Yeah. Or Cracker Jack.
Where I'd never get a soft pretzel anywhere else, or hardly would ever crave a hot dog.
And then in the 5th inning, I'll whoever we're with, we're going to go to the outfield and we're going to do the speed pitch. Yeah. You have that little cage where you can throw and see, because then whoever you're with, it's a competition. Right. Who can throw the fastest. And so that's a part of my little routine when I go to a game. And those are just things that are fun.
You hear the smack of the ball off the bat, the sounds of it. And they're doing so much with Town Madison now that you could go and there's a Super Chicks and there's a Panera coming and a Chipotle, and I can't even keep up with they've got Jay Alexander. So whatever type of day you want to have with around the Trash Pandas. If you want to do a really nice lunch or dinner after, you can do that. If you just need to grab the kids Panera and get home, like they've really planned that so well for any type of day, price point, situation that you're having.
And it's nice because you have kind of that side of town with Town Madison, and then you got the Mid City where they have the Top Golf, the Dave and Buster's, Orion, and then of course downtown. Like everyone can, it's all spread out. We're not all on top of each other.
Right. You could do downtown. You could do Bridge Street. You could do Stovehouse, Campus 805, Mid City, or Town Madison.
Yeah.
And
everyone wins.
you're having the best night regardless. There's something for everybody at all that thing.
And you're a hero when you're a tour guide for your friends.
They were like, this is so great. I wish I had this. Like, we wish we had this in our hometown. I'm like, isn't this awesome? Like, I'm exhausted from going to literally all these places in one weekend. Yeah. But it was very cool. And as someone who has kind of adopted this as her current home, like, I was very proud taking them up to Burritt and showing them the view of the city and taking them to the Rocket Center and going downtown and explaining to them like, oh, this place has a great brunch and we love to get pizza here. And this is where I go to spin class. And, you know, I love this coffee and they have the best bagels here. Like it was, I was so proud to be like, look at this town that I'm now is ours, you know, it was cool. Our town. So I was really excited to talk to you about Huntsville because you have just moved here similarly to me, and where all of the people I've met have either been here 10 plus years or they're from here and I don't think they get it the way that we get it.
Sure.
Are you ready for your pick six?
Yeah, let's do it.
This is my favorite thing you do. So I was really excited. So now that
go to Control 5. Use the key, that keypad over there. Yes.
Oh, look at us.
So that one thing I didn't explain earlier, my setup is I'm a one-man band, so there are other ways to do a setup.
Yeah.
But in order to do everything, I have to make it as efficient as possible. So basically, Tori has this keyboard in front of her. And
you sort of have to be slick with it because we're on camera, so we could switch back to the two of us, which I was a little nervous to do.
And that's in part why I use a laptop as a barrier, so that not everybody always sees me moving my hands.
And see the notes in the water.
Oh, I'm sorry. So you're on.
I was just, now that I know how to do it, was just flipping.
Now you're having fun.
Okay. So the quick six. Now they're not so quick.
That's right.
I just thought let me come up with some scenarios for you. So
that's the true spirit of the game.
Yeah.
The answers don't have to be quick.
There's no rules on your podcast.
It just sounds
good. Seems like. All right. So now that you're an adult, you've got your established career, you've done this, you're doing the podcast thing. If there was something else you could do, a different career, just for the fun of it, what would it be? Like for me, I'd want to be a barbecue pit master. Would be my next.
Golf caddy.
Golf caddy.
Maybe for a pro, PGA Tour pro. That has always interested me.
Yeah.
Less pressure. You're not the player.
But they sometimes ask you for advice, right?
Yeah, and that's fine. I'll give them the advice. Get to know the player. I wouldn't mind being a caddy, or you know what? I might open a food truck. I'm honestly was talking with somebody about that. Maybe even yesterday with Matt.
Yeah.
In episode 10, we were talking about that, and why not?
What kind of food? We do have to talk about your cooking.
You know what? I'm a Philly cheesesteak smash burger type person.
Okay.
I have to think about what would be those things that I could mass produce to keep good quality, but at the same time, easy to kind of turn around.
Yeah. And then that would be your next podcast, broadcasting, doing your food truck.
I could.
With your guest is also making the cheesesteak. That's your next thing, right?
I watch a lot of stuff like that on YouTube, and I watch a lot of, being from Pittsburgh and Pennsylvania, I watch a lot of how they do Philly cheesesteaks, and everybody does them very different.
They are very different. And my friend that was in town, she's from Philly, so she was kind of telling us about how the different systems work. Have you ever have you watched the movie Chef with Jon Favreau?
No.
So you have to watch it. It's really good if you like a cooking movie. But it was such a cool movie that he trained as he was a chef to make the movie. So then as a result, on Netflix, he's got a show called The Chef Show, where he and some of the consultants that he used to make the movie, and he will just they just sort of in a podcast way, but with video, turned on a camera in a kitchen and started making all the recipes from the movie they did in Chef and talked about the recipes. And then he started getting different guests and he'd go to different people's houses. And there's a couple of seasons. And if you're getting into cooking and like this is your realm as well, it like perfectly meshes the two together.
Yeah.
You have to check that out.
Okay.
Before I get to more of your pick sixes, you said that you're learning and liking to cook outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We grilling or was it like a
grill, smoke, or griddle?
Okay.
All of the above. And I'll make my own sauces.
Oh.
That's a huge piece to a lot of things, right? I made my first Alabama white sauce.
Oh, that's different when you come from.
Yeah.
We just had the regular barbecue sauce.
I don't like as much vinegar in my barbecue, so I've like a lot of it will call for a lot of vinegar, so I've toned that down. Hawaiian barbecue is actually another big thing I'll do. They actually there's a new Hawaiian barbecue in Southwest Huntsville.
Okay.
That's okay. It's called Love. I think it's called Love Hawaiian.
It's hard to keep up with all of the places that open here weekly.
You know what? So my family's out of town right now, and I smoked an entire bologna. You take the entire chub.
Okay.
And that will last you days. But there's nothing. I think Memphis is famous for a bologna sandwich, or Nashville. I think it's Memphis. And that's one thing I'm trying to perfect is not just how you smoke it, but then the kind of sauce.
Yeah.
You can do like a honey mustard based sauce. But so some of it's just sandwiches and kind of guy food.
Yeah.
But I like to be challenged with the sauce. I'm getting into birria, which is interesting.
What is birria?
Birria is a tomato based type of sauce, and then you'll pour it. You're using guajillas and pepillas. You have to go to to the Hispanic store, and get dried peppers. You rehydrate them. So it's the process of rehydrating the peppers, adding some fire roasted tomatoes. You're gonna add some paprika and cumin and stuff like that, and then you pour it over like short rib, and then you bake it for 3 hours. So it kind of falls apart. But the birria is this sauce.
Okay.
And then you take the tortillas, and so you dip those in the sauce, and then so they turn orange.
Oh, I've seen like on TikTok people doing the tortillas,
and then you
sauce.
Put those on the griddle to kind of toast, and then you add the meat, and then like you want like a Monterey Jack cheddar or Monterey Jack cheese, and then you kind of fold over the thing so it kind of melts.
Yeah.
And then from there, so birria is just kind of that process of the pepper, and the tomato based sauce that the meat is marinated in through baking.
I think also with grilling and smoking, like the process is sometimes the fun too. Like, these ribs are gonna take 4 hours, so settle in because we're gonna be here a while. What do you do on the griddle? Do you have a Blackstone?
Yeah, Blackstone. It's like anything that requires a lot of force. So your Philly cheesesteaks, your smash burgers where you're using a lot of force to like push down on something. You can do fajitas. So I can do anything in mass quantity.
Yeah.
I can probably make 12 pancakes at the same time. I can do 3 pounds of bacon at the same time.
Right.
So I'll use a lot of that if we're gonna have people over.
Yeah.
And I need to quickly do something, I'll do it on the griddle. But mostly for foods like your Philly cheesesteak where you're going to saute a bunch of onions, and then you got your meat going, and then you got to get your Cheese Whiz, and all of that's on the surface.
And my friends would be really happy to know that you use the Cheese Whiz.
Oh yeah,
because it's like that's what you need it with.
Yeah. I'll throw you out if you want provolone.
Have you ever? So I've done grilled peaches, which is something I'd wanted to try.
Okay.
And then I've just started dabbling in cedar plank on a grill.
Oh boy.
Now that's tricky.
You got to soak that in water.
Because you have to soak it. But then also like the indirect heat.
Yeah.
Like did a salmon, did the whole thing, soaked it. And like it was not cooked enough. Because I was so worried about not catching the thing on fire.
Yeah.
Then I had to throw it in the oven just to have it a little. So like it's fun to tweak those things and kind of like, all right, next time should we grill the pizza? Like all of the different. So when you said you like to do outdoor cooking, I was like, awesome.
There was one time when I did the whole cedar plank thing with the salmon.
Okay.
This is years ago on my grill. We had people over, and I was all like, I think it was like a buddy from high school or something, and So we're throwing the football around, and I'm feeling this is cool. We're at my new house, and we're like cooking salmon on the
cedar plank.
And it's next thing you know, it was on fire. Like everything was on fire. Like the grill, like it was bad. Dinner was ruined. You know, like not good. Yeah. I did not soak that in water long enough. So
you had to do it a long time, and even still, it's like a one-use thing. Do you sous vide? Have you heard of the sous vide?
Oh, I've heard of that. That's underwater.
I love to sous vide. And so anytime I'm like, have you ever heard of a sous vide? It's like a water pump, and it keeps the water within like a half a degree.
Wow.
So you cook things low and slow. So like I did like a 24-hour roast one time.
Really?
Which was really good, but not necessarily worth it because I wasn't thinking like, oh, well, this water is going to evaporate off. So like 3 a.m, I'm hearing this like beep at like my sous vide is saying I don't have enough water to finish. So I had to re-add the water. But for certain things, like a perfectly cooked steak, I'm a big sous vide. It's just also like a fun spectacle.
Sure.
To cook something with a sous vide.
It's funny. I was literally listening to Rogan talking to someone yesterday about sous vide. So this is like day 2 now. I've heard it twice. Like
you're going to have to get one. They're really fun. All right, let's get back to your pick 6.
Sure.
So I know you're a big sports guy. Love to be at a baseball game. What would be your walk-up song?
You know what? This is going to sound crazy. I might go with Hulk Hogan's walk up. His I'm a Real American. If you ever remember that, that was like his walkout song.
Yeah.
I am a real. I can't remember who I might go with that.
Yeah.
I'm a Real American.
They have to be pretty like.
And I don't think I've ever heard that song other than when Hulk Hogan came out to the ring.
That's one of my favorite things, and I wish they would play them just a little bit longer. Like when they do the walk up, like I need just a couple more seconds to really feel the effect of
either that or like a ZZ Top.
Yeah.
Under pressure.
I'd go like bad to the bone on that one. Yeah. What's a movie that everybody likes but you don't?
Wow. Harry Potter.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not that into those kinds of like a Harry Potter, maybe. Mm-hmm.
I recently just watched all of them start to finish. I hadn't when they came out. Watched them all. I was like, that was great. I will never need to watch them again.
Yeah, there's probably a lot of movies that kind of fall into that category where I'm just like, it's fine. I'll watch it once. I'll appreciate the production or whatever. But I'm just not like I don't reach fanaticism.
Yeah,
you know.
I ask because I very much have not seen a ton of movies people hype up. So I just watched one a couple weeks ago and I was like, well, that was not as good as people say. And I want to tell you, but I also feel like it's Top Gun. Like I just saw it for the first time.
The Maverick one?
No.
Oh, the
I
original.
saw the original for the first time because I want to see Maverick. And I was like, I think that just gets a lot of hype.
That might be because you're watching it from the lens of 2022.
Right.
It's the same thing with like original Star Wars.
Yeah.
It's hard to watch that compared to all the stuff that they've advanced technology-wise, you know?
Like watching the new Jurassic Parks versus the original. Yeah. A little bit different.
That might be some of it.
Maybe, but I was really like, oh.
My son, it's funny. My son told me, because he just went to see Top Gun Maverick with his girlfriend, and he was like, Dad, you're going to have to watch the first one again. And I'm like, dude, I've seen it 200 times.
Like, I could act it out for you.
I can tell you all the lines. He's like, try me. And so I did. I started like scene by scene. He's like, okay. Like, I don't need to see it again.
Right. What would be your idea of a perfect Saturday, start to finish? Like from the moment you wake up, like what is your perfect Saturday? What are you doing?
That's a good question. I always tell my kids you're going to be happier when you have some balance in life. So I've had a good Saturday. I'll give you one from like my life. I used to belong to like this country club. So a perfect Saturday was I wake up at like 5:30 in the morning and I go play 9 holes with my buddy.
Yeah. Okay.
We're home by breakfast. Make a big breakfast for the family. Do some yard work. Maybe go and do some service for someone. Maybe go mow a lawn for an old lady or whatever. And then lunch, like a late lunch,
Yeah.
somewhere like, go out to lunch and come back, take a nap,
Yep.
and then go to like a game that night or to a movie.
Okay.
And then get some ice cream and then come home.
All right.
So like a lot of different things, but like a full day.
But like in a leisure way.
Yeah, in a leisurely way.
Kind of like
nothing
into
frenetic.
those things.
Just
right.
like and a lot of it's not even planned. It's just like, hey, let's go do this. Let's go do that.
Yeah.
I don't like to hold to like an itinerary or I must do this at this time. It's just kind of situational.
But like all of those things you like to do, like your
and
favorite.
then you kind of look back again. You wouldn't have planned the day, and like that was a good day.
That was a perfect day.
Yeah, I did a lot of different things.
But it was the way I wanted to do them.
Yeah, maybe throw in there like a 6 mile run. Some exercise.
I was with you on the nap, and you lost me at the 6 mile run.
And I probably would have. I always love cooking dinner for the family, and I like to get there. So I would have said maybe even before we went to the game or the movies, I would have I would have experimented with something and made an awesome dinner. Because Dad cooks good.
Yeah. Yeah. There is something about which I started to appreciate as I got into my adult years, like just the happiness that comes with cooking a meal, a big meal for people you love.
Yeah.
Friends, family, whatever. Like just the act of like, all right, we're going to make a big breakfast and like, we're just going to sit here and enjoy this breakfast. Like that is one of, I think, life's most wonderful joys that I didn't realize how good that is until you get to like, you have to wait till you're kind of an adult to appreciate stuff like that.
And I think it's something where we all have to eat to stay alive.
Yeah.
We have to eat multiple meals. So like everyone appreciates food or, like, because we all have that common thread, food.
Food. I just like plan everything around the meals. You're golfing.
Yeah.
If you could have 3 people in your foursome with you, any 3 people, who are you golfing with?
All right. Any 3 people.
Dead, alive, famous, non-famous, people you know.
Whatever.
Anybody.
Who was it? Ricky said something really funny. I won't go back to that because it was like who was he going to eat dinner with? Like his last dinner. It was like Attila the Hun and.
I'm sure he had great answers for all of the questions.
Any 3 people. See, I'm not just a fun guy. I would say I have to play with Tiger.
Yeah.
Just because, and I want to play with vintage Tiger, like before the injuries, like pre-2005 Tiger.
Like peak everybody's golden boy Tiger.
Well, just when his game was so pure.
Yeah. It'd be nice to pick his brain.
Just to watch. Yeah. I don't like him as a person necessarily.
Yeah.
But man, no one has ever played like him. So I'd love to just watch him play. I'll throw my my buddy Todd would be there because I take him everywhere.
Yeah.
He's my BFF.
Yeah.
And
I'm sure he'd love that you'd pick him in the foursome.
Yeah, he's in it. He's because you got to be loyal to your friends,
of course,
right? And what if I call him? Hey, man, I'm gonna play with Tiger Woods tomorrow, and whoever, and you, like me? Yeah, man.
Yeah, of course you.
Yeah, we'll send a plane to get you. And oh man, who would be that other person? I've never really thought about this. I know
that's what I like to do.
Gosh, let me think. Anybody.
It is a very hard question.
Yeah, because you're thinking like it's one thing just to say is it a golf related person.
Yeah. I also think on questions like this, you feel the pressure of like, oh my gosh, this is such a heavy question. Like my 3 people.
Well, it's funny to see where your mind like.
Yeah.
My mind's like, do I want to ask like George Washington?
Right.
Like,
would I really have anything to talk to him about? Like, would he be a good golfer?
I would. Let's say, I almost want to pick someone that I know I could beat.
Oh, that's a good way to approach it.
Like a celebrity. Let's throw in like Justin Timberlake.
He is a big golfer.
He's a big golfer and he's good. Mm-hmm. So the one thing, I'm not going to beat Tiger, of course. No. My buddy Todd and I play a lot, but then there's got to be someone famous who is known to be a good golfer, but I know I can beat him.
Right.
Justin
within
Timberlake.
the realm. Like you're not going to
Yeah.
beat Tiger.
But it would be a battle. Justin and I Timberlake would be a battle.
You could win, but you might not.
Yeah. If assuming he's like a 2-3 handicap, I could probably take him. If he's better than that, we'll see.
I think he's good. Like he's always at like the Pebble Beach. Was it the Pro-Am? Is that what they call it?
Yeah.
He's always there, and he always does really well.
So I look at it differently. It's not like I'm starstruck and I want like a former president. Like no. I want to beat this guy, and I want everybody in the world to know I beat Justin Timberlake.
Justin Timberlake. That would be like the new like byline of the Our Town podcast. Host Troy By.
See?
Beat Justin Timberlake.
And that's also what you call freezing under pressure, or else like I don't know what else to tell you.
No, but like I think that's good. I don't like being asked questions like that because I feel some immense pressure to make it like a very logical, exciting answer.
Like I pre-thought of it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Yeah.
Well, I've thought about it. It's what keeps me up at night. Well, those were my pick sixes for you, which is my favorite thing you do. So I was excited to.
All right, go back to Control 2.
Control 2.
Boom.
Both of us again.
Now she's back in.
This was so fun. I'm so glad you let me like sit in your control station because I know that's not a thing you like to do.
I think I got used to it.
Yeah. How do you like being the one that sits over there?
It's fine.
Answering the questions.
Part of the reason I have all these monitors, we don't really need them, but when you do live stuff, well, you need to know right away if you have a problem. And we actually had a problem earlier.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to edit that out. And that was something I just noticed because you're constantly monitoring stuff. And so the reason I have a lot of monitors is because I know if a monitor goes down, a camera went down or something went wrong with that, right? And so then you go to plan B because we're still live.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're going to stop the show because a camera went down.
No.
We're just going to go be, dependent on a different camera.
Yeah.
Right. And I kind of like having all those like scenarios, plan A, plan B, plan C, which helps me a lot in my professional life too.
Yeah.
I approach things as, okay, this has to be a perfectly executed. And we need to have a plan A, a plan B, a C, D, E, and expect the unexpected and all that.
Yeah. But if something goes wrong, we still got to carry the plan and still go. I think the thing that is the hardest for me, only being audio driven with radio, I never have to like worry about my facial expressions or my hands or like where I'm looking. And this is like, you have to be very mindful not to like focus on any of the monitors. It's like you have to focus on them, but not focus on them.
It has to be very abstract. Like we're looking at an audio meter and you're going to know right away if it's a serious problem, but you just kind of abstractly, okay, we're fine.
Yeah.
Or in the old days.
If you could hear it, over modulated in your headphones, you'd be like, well, problem.
Well, I've had a number of issues and you got to like, you're calling the game and you're also trying to figure out like, how am I going to fix this? Or when am I going to fix this? And what could it be? And,
There's times where on the radio, I will try to be speaking, but I have messed something up technically, or I'm trying to rearrange something that's outside of the norm of my movements. And sometimes I just crush it. And sometimes I'm like, Are
you guys allowed to have visitors? I would love to just come and just see. I've always wanted to see the how radio and television really work.
Yeah, you can come anytime.
All I know is the internet. So I've never worked in a television truck.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm assuming it's very similar in some degree, right? It's video, it's audio, you tie it together, send it out. But I'd love to see the behind the scenes.
Come anytime, I'll show it to you. Okay. And you're going to be really like, oh, it's definitely not as glamorous as like it seems like it would be. But yeah, come anytime. I'll show you all of the stations, show you how it all works. And you'll be like, oh, I do a lot more than this every day anyways. Yeah, it's a lot more basic in the way that it's like mic on, talk, stop the commercials, stop the music. Right. Yeah, anytime you want to come by,
I'll check it out.
Yeah.
WZYP.
Thanks for letting me interview you. This was so fun.
Yeah, I hope the viewers will enjoy it.
I feel like they will, because I think one of the things you like to see the guests of people you know.
Yeah.
But then people want to know about the people who host the shows.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be nice for people to get to know more about you.
It kind of is one of those things where as much as we all want attention, we also don't want attention.
Yeah.
And, everything I've ever done, it's always been more about the guests. It's been about the football team. Who cares about the old dad?
You're the medium.
Yeah. And so, and now I'm in a new market, and it's important to be like, so who's this guy?
Yeah.
Because they might have been aware of me. Oh, that's so-and-so's kid, or they knew me from football or Little League or something. But now you're starting all the way over, and it's like, okay, who's Troy By?
Yeah. It is weird. I'm in that position where I'm talking about other people always, and very, sprinkling some personal stuff in here or there. So when you asked me to do the podcast, I was like, that would be fun, but I don't really know what it is about. I don't have anything to say. I talk about other things and other people. So it was, but then you do realize you're like, oh, I do have a story, and I do have, things to share, and it's a fun way to kind of switch it. I think I'm more comfortable, you and I over here, and we get to be with the guests.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for letting me take
You're welcome.
over. This was so fun.
Tori did a great job.
Episode 11.
Episode 11 in the books, Tori.
In the books. Check.
At Tori on the radio.
Yes.
Listen to her weekdays 11 to 3.
10 to 3.
10 to 3.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You can come anytime you want and guest co-host with me.
Awesome.
For the day.
Thank you, Tori.
Thank you.